Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are. I'm Felipe Hoffa, and I'm developer advocate for Snowflake, and I'm on the West Coast, California of today. And I have two special guests for the live show. Nihal Rp, how do you say your name and last name?
RP is good.
Rp. Nihal Rp and Armin Efendic from Hex. How are you, Armin?
Good, good. Thanks for having me.
Yes. I see that people are getting connected. We are live. We are ready to answer live questions. So if people want to try our chat, we are waiting for your messages to know that you are here with us. Let me start with Armin. You are a partner engineer for X. What does that mean?
Yeah, partner engineer Hex, been here for just over a year. So I work with both product teams from our partnerships, mainly with Snowflake and a little bit with internally at Hex. And then I primarily role is to ensure customers get the most value out of their Hex and Snowflake integrations to date.
Excellent. Speaking of integrations between Snowflake and X, that and customers, that's what Nihal brings us today. Tell us a little more about you, Nihal.
Yeah, I work as a senior data scientist at GameChanger. I've been at the company for almost 4 years now. And in my tenure here, I've played multiple roles within the data and ML landscape, with the most recent being a data scientist.
Being a data scientist. Before joining Game Changer, you used to be a software engineer. How did you become a data scientist?
Yeah, that's a good question. I got my master's in computer science. I was heavily into software, and then I found my passion for machine learning and data science in my master's program. So I was like, I want to mix the two fields and see if I have a role to play in this. So I started doing machine learning engineering, which is I see as a mix of these both fields. But I've recently started developing more interest on the machine learning modeling aspect. So I've been like heavily focused on the data science side of things now.
Nice. ML modeling data scientist. And we have a big slide here because that's a preview of what's going to we're going to discuss today. Customer lifetime value. That was a project that you developed at Game Changer.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So how does customer lifetime value relate to machine learning? Just to get a quick overview of it before we go deep.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So a lot of people have this questions. Do we even need machine learning for lifetime value? I would say it depends. In our use case, we had a big interest in understanding lifetime value at a user level. So that was our big thing. We wanted to assess things like, hey, for these specific set of users, what's their lifetime value like? Maybe like people who use our streaming functionality, just that segment, what's their lifetime value like? So that was one use case that we had, and the other one was we yeah, like having that at a user level just gives us way more detail and understanding into a specific user. So when you have that need and you want a model where the lifetime value of a user is changing based on how the user is behaving in the app. So with that other requirement, we are like, I think a machine learning model here makes sense for a LTV project.
And we are going to see this project in depth next. And we already have a live question, which is a typical question that we get from Akmer. He wants to know if a recording will be available later. Yes, you can watch this right now live with us, be part of it. But as soon as this stream is over, the recording will be available right here in the same URL on LinkedIn and on YouTube. So we love taking risks. This is live and being recorded, and then you can share it with your friends. Um, how about we go to your computer, Nihal, and just to set expectations, we're going to go deep into what a Game Changer is, why it's important to get a customer lifetime value, how did Snowflake and X became a part of your experimentation, and then how you were able to put it in production. And having Armin here will be great also to ask you questions to see what you're using. Oh, it's a conversation between us and between everyone that's with us today. So let me go to your screen, Armin. Oh, I hear a doorbell. Do you need to go check that? No. Excellent. Let's get into this. What is Game Changer?
Awesome. Thanks, Felipe. So yeah, as you see here, GameChanger is the number one rated because I work. I like to brag about it. I work there. So it's the best youth sports app out there for live streaming, scorekeeping, team management, and bunch of other things. These are just some things that we do at GameChanger. And you can see that it's for family and fans of teams of kids playing, and families can stream, coaches can keep score, you can be connected to the team, you have team messaging, photo sharing, a lot of features out there in the app. And one thing I'd like to shout out is as of yesterday, we were the number 2 app in the sports free category in iOS App Store and Android App Store.
Congratulations. Being number one is cool, especially for sports. So that's really nice.
Yeah, that's mainly what I had about the company.
Uh-huh.
I'd
How
say
long
let's
ago
let's
did you
jump
join?
into
Please, Armin.
yeah, I'd say let's jump into kind of customer lifetime value a little bit. I'd love for the audience to hear about how you even approach the problem, why the business cared for it. Maybe we start from there and kind of see how you broke it down, and go from there.
Yeah,
Yes,
sure.
please.
Yeah, I'll give some context, and then I also have a couple of slides that I can show about some more details about the problem. But at a high level, at GameChanger, we wanted to quantify the monetary value of a user over their tenure of their relationship with us. And along with that, we wanted the ability to assess that metric at different segments and like at different cuts. For example, what is the LTV of everyone that comes from a certain marketing channel, or what's the LTV of users who use a certain feature in the app? So we wanted that ability to like cut LTV across different segments. And we also wanted the ability for LTV itself to change based on the change in user behavior in the app. So and these needs sort of came from different stakeholders across the company. For example, the product teams wanted a deeper understanding of these specific segments. So if a product team is developing a feature, they're responsible and they own that feature. They would love to learn the LTV of users using that feature. For example, from marketing, they use it as one of their metrics to analyze paid media performance. And finance team, for example, LTV plays a crucial role in revenue forecasting. So when you take a lifetime value model and attach a new subscriber growth model to it, which is a completely different question, I think you'll have a really powerful forecasting tool. So along with these needs in the company, we then approached the problem, and we were like, I think based on our needs, we need to develop lifetime value. I think that's the best metric that we can use to track the monetary value of users.
And it looks like you may have started this by taking the approach of understanding it. Do we care for all users or just subscribed users? Was there any criteria or anything governed you just choosing subscribers first?
Yeah. If you want to share the previous slide, Felipe.
Let's. Mhm.
So yeah, in the approach section that you see here, based on there are many definitions of lifetime value. When you do research out there, we kind of stuck to the definitions that made sense to us, and we had to then decide, do we want to establish a lifetime value metric for all our user base, or do we want to establish for that just for our subscribers? Because the problem is slightly different when you do it for these two things. The reason we went with the second one, which is highlighted here, is because it was an easier problem than doing that for all users. We were first wanted to achieve that for our subscribers. So users who are subscribed, we know they pay. We want to understand what their value is in the future. But when you want to do it for all users, you do the same exact thing, but you need to also build another model of what's the probability of free users subscribing. So we wanted to start off with a subscription only problem and then kind of build all users on top of it when needed.
Yeah, that makes sense. And my understanding is you then kind of started out with kind of a scratch Hex project for development work.
Yes, that's right.
Maybe you can show us a little bit about kind of high level what model you used, the criteria for it, and maybe some snippets of the Hex project you can share.
Yeah, sure, I can do that. Before I jump into that Hex notebook, I'll give a high level of, which is also in this slide a little bit here, high level of um, why we had to, did we even use machine learning for this project, and what model did we use, and how did we like sort of break down the problem. As you can see in this slide, LTV is an expectation. So you're trying to predict the value of a user. So it has to either be averaged based on historical data or statistically inferred. And the other component is value, which is you can choose any metric. In our case, revenue is a metric that made sense to us. And any business users sort of end their relationship with that business. For example, GameChanger, they might stop paying us after a certain amount of time. So that's the lifetime piece of it. So we quickly realized that lifetime value is actually two problems. We need to work on the lifetime problem and the value problem. So lifetime is basically that sort of machine learning aspect of it as of now, which is we quickly realized that a model that could look at user characteristics and predict their time to churn. Um, that's what we want here. So we first then understood that, hey, we are looking at a survival analysis or a survival regression problem here. And then we sort of started our exploration using a model called Kaplan-Meier, and then we quickly moved on to this other model called Cox proportional hazards, which is a semi-parametric model. So you can actually have user characteristics and user features in there, and the model will look at them and help predict churn. And from the value side of things, we sort of just built a basic sort of monthly recurring revenue sort of model at a subscription type level. So we sort of know, hey, if a user starts subscription with a plus monthly, what's their value to us every month? So we kind of built that lifetime piece, we built the value piece, and then we just multiply these two things to get lifetime value. So like I promised, do you want me to like show the Hex notebook a little bit on how we sort of went about
I
it?
would love to see how you put these ideas into first experimentation. And we have a question from Kashika, who would love to know what is Hex. Yeah, as you show us Hex, I would love Armin to give us a brief intro of what you are going to show us.
Sure.
There it is.
So, yeah, as Nihal's pulling this up, Hex is a AI-powered data platform for basically all of your data science or ML needs. And every single Hex project that we're seeing right now, so this is a copy of Nihal's actual project, comes with two parts: one part notebook and one part app builder. The notebook will be familiar if you've worked with, say, Jupyter or maybe VS Code before, where you have cells on top of each other with a bunch of other bells and whistles that comes with every Hex project. And then the second half, you can take those assets that you built on the notebook side and then create them into a data app that you can share out with the business. So this would be our app builder. And we'll touch on that a little bit as well, on how we can take the assets that are much more technical, very code heavy, and turn them into something that any type of user can interact with. But with that said, I'll pass it back to Nihal to at least show us some of the features of Hex, I guess, while he was going through this, that really made his journey into building these two models much easier.
Yep. Thank you, Kashika and Narasimha, for bringing us back to why we're talking about X. Yes, we're going to do an ML project, and now we're showing off X as a notebook. how Armin was using it. Armin.
Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, as you can see here, all of us, all data scientists, all data analysts, all of us come from a notebook environment. We are used to local Jupyter notebooks. So Hex is that tool, which is a Jupyter notebook on steroids. So it's a really powerful Jupyter notebook. And as you can see here, I'll show you some things where this is where all our model development is happening. As you can see on top, there were collaborators in this model. These are my teammates who are also in this notebook, helping me code review or helping me collaborate here. And the other cool feature is a lot of data science projects are a mixture. Usually, if your model programming language is Python, there's a lot of SQL also involved because there's no machine learning project without actually pulling data. So you can have SQL cells in Hex. So let me show you an example of how am I even pulling the training data for this. I'm writing a SQL query to actually pull the training data, which is automatically then stored into a data frame here. You can see that here. And then I can now access this data frame anywhere in the app here. So that's sort of interoperability between Python SQL is super nice here. So yeah, a lot of model development, exploration for the model, any sort of pre-processing, the model building and fitting the model itself. All of that happened in Hex. We used metrics that make sense for a survival problem, metrics like log likelihood. We looked at concordance indexes. So all our measurement of our model happened here. So it's like a really nice app. There's another cool feature that you see here where something called a write back cell. So if you can see, if you think of a Jupyter notebook, a cell in Jupyter notebook can just be a Python cell. But here, a cell can be not just a Python cell, it can be a SQL cell. It can be a markdown cell. It can be a chart. It can be like a write back cell like I'm showing here. A lot of times we want to just build something, have a data frame, and we want to store that data frame into a database or a data warehouse. Write back cells achieve that. I'm just telling, hey, I have this data frame called df1. Store it in Snowflake for me, please. And then I just create this write back cell with this configuration, hit run, automatically all the data is being dumped into Snowflake. So yeah, that's a little
Yes.
bit of the app here.
Yes. And Harry, we don't see the name in the here, but I know it's Harry, VP Data. How does Snowflake fit into this besides being a data platform? Because, of course, you have all the ML theory, uh, you're experimenting with X, but Snowflake is the one doing everything. How do you see that relationship?
Sure, yeah, that's a great question, actually. I should have brought that up. So the end goal of our project was
Mhm.
we built a lifetime value model. We are generating a lot of insights from that model. And the end goal was store all that data and the insights that we are generating in this model into Snowflake, which is the data warehouse of GameChanger. And eventually that data from Snowflake is exposed into Looker, which is our BI tool. So that was sort of the goal of the project. That's why Snowflake comes into picture here, where we eventually want to store the data that we are generating in the project into Snowflake.
Nice. So, and I have a question here. I want to answer it quickly, but if we connect Snowflake with any CRM and make changes in CRM data, edit or modify, will it reflect on your CRM? I think it depends on the CRM, but you were showing us here that the notebook can write back to Snowflake when wherever you want to write back to Snowflake and save your results.
Yeah.
And then it depends on the connections. Um, so as I love that you're showing us this notebook, and we can use it to answer questions from the audience. But let's go back to the slides to see how this fits within your project. Like,
Yeah.
mhm. Excellent.
So sure. So let's, Armin, are you okay? We jump into the process of how we sort of went
Yeah.
about developing this.
Yeah, it sounds like you kind of broke down the LTV for your subscribe users into two phases. One part being the actual value or revenue, and the other part being more or less churn modeling or understanding the how long your customer is actually going to be paying for your subscriptions. How did you guys go about productionalizing this? Did you have to work with your data engineering team? How do you actually turn this to give value to those business stakeholders, like from the product or finance marketing teams?
That's a great question. So we yes, we did have to work with the data engineering team to sort of build a POC from what we are doing, and then actually also build a production solution for it. So I'll definitely show you the sort of phases that we went through with the development of this project. I know there's a lot going on here. So let me first talk about the first phase, which is the development itself. Like I showed you the Hex notebook. So everything within the red color is happening within Hex. This was our first phase where as a data science team, we brought in data from Snowflake, brought in all the training data. We built a training, if we built a model for the lifetime piece of it. We built another plain SQL sort of code for the value piece of it. We then brought that back into Snowflake. So once we built this, we were like, hey, things are looking good. The model is looking good. I think we can start trusting the numbers just as a data science team. Um, Now it was actually time to maybe start exposing some of these insights to stakeholders so that they can sort of see it, play around with it. So we then went to this phase two of a POC. We just call this the POC, where the data engineering team also came into the picture. What we did was we took the Hex notebook that we had. That Hex notebook is the notebook that I was just showing, has a lot of code in it. What the data engineering team did was took that notebook, built a mini version of it with only the code that is necessary. In the that notebook, you don't need data explorations. You don't need a lot of like I don't know, like a lot of metrics, unnecessary metrics that you have in there, a lot of graphs. You don't need all of that in a notebook that can like sort of be that production notebook and like run quickly. So data engineering team came in, they built that second notebook, which also I can kind of show you high level. What they did is they kind of took all the insights, main cells from this notebook and built this second notebook, which is just the main code that is producing insights to the model. So that's the piece where you can see from phase one, I removed all the from the data preparation and exploration, we removed all the exploration pieces. We don't need that anymore. And we sort of the data engineering team built that notebook. And then what they did was, hey, now we have this. Let's do a couple of things. One, let's expose it to Looker because that's where stakeholders are. That's where they want to see the information that we are generating. So they sort of did the same thing, dumped all the data into Snowflake and dbt, which is our data transformation layer. They built a quick dbt model to multiply these two things, customer lifetime and customer value. They built a customer lifetime value, and then we expose that in Looker. That's the first piece. The second piece being we also built a nice Hex app, which Armin was talking about. Hex has this tool called App Builder, which you can take some cells which are really necessary for stakeholders to see. You can add that to the app. So when stakeholders open the Hex, it's almost like a dashboard. They can come in here, play around with the app, look at LTV for specific users. So we built the app. Now the app is available to stakeholders. The Looker data is available to stakeholders, so they can now play around with it. That was the sort of POC. And then third phase is when we productionized it in Snowflake. Before I jump into this, if you want to ask any specific questions, Felipe or Armin, I can answer that.
I love how you're showing how you go from experimentation to just running the POC, and then when everyone loves it, you're able to go into production. Any thoughts? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the experimentation was accelerated via Hex with some other tools. But did you share some of these kind of initial apps to some stakeholders so you could say, hey, marketing, does this look of value to you before we go productionalize it, and actually take up, create a data ticket to the data engineering team, or actually go spin up and change your DBT models?
Yeah, we were in constant touch with stakeholders who were interested in this. Like I said, we exposed it via Looker and an Hex app. So we allowed stakeholders to play around with the data, look at LTV for different user segments, or look at LTV for specific marketing channels. And then once we got the feedback, they were happy with it. We then decided, yeah, let's build a production solution for it.
Gotcha. And that was then deployed. So you're calling inference via Snowpark, I imagine, and it's a UDF under the
Exactly.
hood. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So we anyway use DBT as a transformation layer, and all the data from the Hex notebooks was being dumped into Snowflake and being modeled again using DBT. We were like, hey, let's just build a solution with everything within the DBT world itself. So all the training, the inference, all of that is happening within DBT, which is happening via Snowpark, which is an amazing Snowflake feature. Now Snowflake has support for not just SQL, you can write Python and many other languages for your data. So we use Snowpark, so all the training inference is happening via DBT in Snowflake.
Yes. So you're mixing on the toolbox. You have DBT, Docker. That's Airflow on the top right.
Yeah, so I just added that in because that's how it's deployed. We use Docker containers, and then it's the whole DBT project is scheduled using this. Yeah, it's Airflow basically, but it's on AWS.
In AWS, nice. And you have you are using Snowpack for all of the Python magic in this flow.
Exactly. Yeah,
Beautiful.
and Snowpark has been amazing. Yeah, we love it. It's low cost, amazing scalability, familiar syntax. So it's awesome.
I'm glad that you love it. And if you have any feedback, we are here to listen it. So as we need to start closing the show, can we see a little bit of what are your tables? How does the end result look in terms of data?
Yeah, so when we sort of brought everything into that DBT environment where all the training, modeling, our training data, all of that is happening within DBT as these different models that you see. You can see now everything is a data model. And the purple ones here are using Snowpark, which is all Python code within on top of Snowflake. So we're bringing in the training data, we're building the model. You can see the model is being built using Python code. And then LTV lifetime and LTV lifetime median are two other data models where the inference is happening. So we build the model and we store that into a stage in Snowflake. And we pick that stage back up, for that model from the stage back up during inference, and we do those predictions. And from the value side of things, you can see it's all SQL code, it's all data models running. And then once we have LTV at the user level, we then attach it to our main user table at GameChanger, which is the last table here.
Great. And then the company can use this data. You're giving valuable information to predicting the future for each customer and customers as a whole.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And I also have the Snowpark code here of writing Python on top of Snowflake and how is training happening, how is inference happening. And if you want screenshots, feel free to take it. I don't want to dive into the details of it.
But nice. And you build this code within Hex. That's where you were experimenting and trying different stuff.
Yeah, a lot of this code was in Hex. So we just like plain strip that out of Hex and put it in as a code on top of Snowflake.
Yeah. And Lifelines is a Python library. I didn't know that one.
Yeah, it's a great library for the specific use case of survival analysis. They have nice models there.
Nice. And it was easy to import into your whole flow. Like that's a cool.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it's amazing that you can use Lifelines, you can use sklearn, all these Python packages that we're familiar with in the machine learning world. You can use all that on top of Snowflake data and just write Python instead of writing SQL if you're comfortable with it.
Beautiful. I think it's almost time for our closing words. So I just want to make sure we give people action items, ideas. Armin, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. So thanks again for having us. If anyone would like to get connected, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to show you guys this project or with Nihal in more detail or anything else that would be of interest.
Cool. Nihal, what would you like people to remember or do next?
Yeah, I hope you learned some things from this about what lifetime value is, how we are doing it, how tools come into the picture. So yeah, feel free to like also shoot me questions on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to answer. And I see a lot of comments here. I'll also reply to those. One last thing I wanted to plug in was
Huh.
we are hiring. The data team is hiring at GameChanger. So go to gc.com/careers. Yeah, we have roles open there.
Nice. And you're
Nihal's
working
great to
with
work
the
with, by the
best
way.
tool. Yeah, I mean, it seems that like a great place to work. You have the best tools available. You're the number one app within your category, so that gives you, and you're doing meaningful work, and you get to play with real data. I love it. Shamin Akhtar says appreciate it, and yes, we are going to be looking at the comments here. You can leave comments. Nihal, Armin, feel free to interact with anything that's already there or that comes later. I'm super happy to have shown a real project, how things are moving in the real world. Uh, Thank you for sharing with us, and thank you for everyone for watching this and sharing it with your friends. And with that, is it time to bring the bear to dance because it's time to go to our next meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.